Hey everyone, it's Sportsman Pariente, and after a very interesting slate of games on Saturday with the Baltimore Ravens advancing and the San Francisco 49ers surviving, let's jump right into the swing of things and focus on the Sunday slate for Divisional week. And we'll start with the opening contest, which will be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling to Detroit to take on the Detroit Lions. So for Tampa Bay, they're coming off a very impressive victory over the Philadelphia Eagles, who started at 10-1 and then deflated like a balloon, literally and figuratively. But that being said, Tampa Bay on defense was dominant. Todd Bowles' blitzes were driving Jalen Hurts insane. He had pressure in his face the entire game. He was getting sacked. He was being forced into intentional groundings, safeties. The running game could not get going for Philadelphia. Not having A.J. Brown was obviously a big factor, but the Tampa Bay defense absolutely dominated that game. They even stopped the tush push for Philadelphia, which is almost unheard of these days. And that defense with Levante David, with all the weapons that Todd Bowles has, they are still a force to be reckoned with. For those who don't remember, look at what Todd Bowles' defense when he was still the defensive coordinator in Tampa Bay. Look at what they did in Super Bowl 55 to Patrick Mahomes in that game. This defense can take any quarterback and make them look silly. Now, that being said, this game will also be determined by the Tampa Bay offense. Now, Tampa Bay, outside of, I think, 5 or 6 drop passes, looked very good last week. Baker Mayfield threw for over 300 yards. Mike Evans had a good game. Godwin had a good game. Cameron Brate was able to attack the middle of the field. Rachaad White played very well. It's going to be very interesting to see because Philadelphia, of course, had a lot of issues in the cornerback and the linebacker position. Detroit does have some weaknesses at cornerback as well. We saw Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp kind of go off last week in their loss against Detroit. So it's going to be very interesting if Baker Mayfield can exploit that, or if the Lions can kind of control Godwin and Evans and keep the Bucs offense in front of them. Now, Rachaad White has to play well to control the pace of the game and to allow Baker Mayfield to utilize the play action, which is how you can get Evans, Godwin, and Brate involved. We've seen Baker look incredible this season. He had that incredible game a few weeks ago at Lambeau Field against the Packers, where the Buccaneers put up almost 40 points on Green Bay. We also saw Baker Mayfield and the Bucs struggle mightily against the Carolina Panthers a few weeks ago in the final regular season game. They only put up 9 points and were very lucky to escape that game and even make the postseason. So this game is going to come down to, can Baker Mayfield and the offense generate enough points against Detroit? And can the O-line for Tampa Bay hold up against Aiden Hutchinson and the Detroit front line, which has had a massive improvement over the last 2 years? Because much like Philadelphia, as I mentioned earlier, Detroit's cornerbacks are not that good. So if Baker can have time to throw the ball, Evans, Godwin, and Cameron Brate can really go off and put up points. Detroit's defense is not necessarily their strength. Now, for the Detroit offense, Jared Goff was amazing last week. Maybe one of the best games of his career, ironically, against the coach who felt he could not win with him and Sean McVay. Always feels good to get revenge on someone who kicked you to the curb. Jared Goff, well done. This is going to be a much more difficult task because, as I said, Todd Bowles can really make Jared Goff's life difficult back there. The one thing that can really help Detroit in this game, unlike Philadelphia, Detroit has David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, those two can run the ball. Jahmyr Gibbs you can use in the passing game. So they need to have big games in order to kind of wear down the Tampa Bay front line and allow Goff to have time to get the ball to Sam Laporta or Amon St. Brown or Reynolds or some of the other weapons that Detroit has. So the key is going to be, can Detroit's O-line led by Penei Sewell hold up? Unlike Philadelphia's O-line, can Detroit's O-line hold up against the Tampa Bay blitzes? That's ultimately what's going to determine this game. And the other question is, after the emotional high of Detroit's win last week, will they have enough energy left in the tank to come out, be focused, and really execute against Tampa Bay? Because this is a team that Detroit really, in my opinion, can handle if Montgomery and Gibbs can establish the running game early and start wearing down the Tampa Bay defense. Goff can then get the ball to St. Brown and everyone, which can really stretch out Tampa Bay. But they can't fall behind by a lot, because if you start falling behind by a lot and have to start throwing the ball against Tampa Bay, you're going to be in for a rough outing. Just ask any quarterback who's faced Tampa Bay this year when they've fallen behind. It's very difficult to come back against them. So the big question is, can Detroit get to the NFC Championship game for the first time in... Can they? Yes. Will they? I believe they will, because I think the atmosphere in Detroit last week was one of the most extraordinary things I've seen. I've been watching football for a long time, but that crowd last week in Detroit was incredible, just watching it from the TV. This means so much to that city after everything they've been through, from 0-16 to some really brutal playoff losses to Dallas in 2014, if anyone remembers that, to losing Calvin Johnson, to losing Barry Sanders, losing Matthew Stafford, to just not getting close to a division title until this year. I really think Detroit is a team of destiny right now, and I think their O-line, led by Penei Sewell, can mitigate the Bucs' defensive line enough, and I think the running game of Detroit can really take some pressure off Goff and really kind of slow down Tampa. So I think this will be a close game, but my prediction is Detroit will advance to the NFC Championship game. And my prediction is Detroit 24, Tampa Bay 16. And that brings us, ladies and gentlemen, to the main event. Kansas City versus the Buffalo Bills. For those of you who do not remember this matchup from 2 years ago, the Chiefs won 42-36 at Arrowhead in one of the most incredible football games you'll ever see. This time, however, it will not be at Arrowhead Stadium. This game will be at Orchard Park in Buffalo. It will be Patrick Mahomes' first road game in his NFL playoff career. And from what I've seen, there's not going to be any snow or crazy winds or anything like that in Buffalo. So it is very interesting to see how these two teams have kind of changed over the last 2 years. Right now, the Chiefs' strength is not Patrick Mahomes or Travis Kelce. It's their defense. Their defense has been unbelievably good this year. We saw them limit Miami to 7 points. Granted, it was in -6-degree weather, but still, they held Miami to under 10 points. They've done a very good job this whole season against teams like San Francisco, against teams like the Chargers, and so on and so on. So the Chiefs' defense, I think, will step up and play well. The Chiefs' offense, that's what's going to determine this game. Now, Kelce has been kind of struggling the past few weeks. I don't know if it's Taylor Swift but he's been dropping a lot more passes than usual. Other than Rashee Rice and Kelsey, there's really no solid receivers on the Chiefs team. They're not going to have Kadarius Toney. He's going to be out for this week. Isaiah Pacheco will have to have a big game. The Chiefs have to do better in the red zone. They really struggled last week, even though they won by over 20 points. They, I think, had 5 trips to the red zone. They only had 2 touchdowns. That's not going to get the job done against Buffalo, especially the way Buffalo has been firing on offense the last 6 weeks. Since they fired Ken Dorsey, the Bills are 6-0. And it's going to be very interesting to see Mahomes play in this environment in Buffalo without a lot of the weapons. And he seems to, I don't want to say he's not playing with confidence, but this is not the same Mahomes we saw last year or even the year before that or even the previous years. He's been struggling this year with the drops by his receivers. They, at times, are not on the same page with what routes they're running. So this Chiefs team on offense is very vulnerable, and it's going to be very interesting to see how they perform tomorrow. Now, the Bills defensively do have a lot of injuries. They won't have Tre'Davious White. Their linebacking core had some injuries last week, so I don't know if they'll be fully healthy. So that's going to be very interesting to see if the Bills defensively can keep the Chiefs under control, even with the Chiefs' struggles on offense. And can Sean McDermott not do anything to screw the game up, aka 13 seconds? That's a question that we're going to have to get answers to tomorrow. And for Josh Allen and James Cook and the Bills offense, really ever since Ken Dorsey was fired and Joe Brady was brought in, they've really kind of gone away from the deep passes to Stephon Diggs, to Gabriel Davis. It's not clear, by the way, if Gabriel Davis will play tomorrow. They've really kind of relied on James Cook in the running game and in the passing game, and Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. Those have been the 3 big weapons that Buffalo has used to get on this winning streak that got them the division title and got them the victory last week over the Steelers. And in games where Josh Allen does not turn the ball over, the Bills win. When he does turn the ball over multiple times in a game, they lose. So can Josh Allen be patient, not be panicked into making mistakes like he's made in some other games that have cost Buffalo? He needs to play within himself, rely on James Cook, take the easy passes when they're there to Diggs, Kincaid, Knox, etc. And can Josh Allen and the running game with his legs also, can it be utilized like we saw against Pittsburgh last week? Because if Allen can run the ball and throw the ball without turnovers, the Bills on offense are very, very difficult to stop. And Buffalo, their last 2 playoff games against Kansas City, one was obviously the infamous 2022 divisional round, 13 seconds. The 2020 loss in the AFC Championship game in Kansas City as well. Can Buffalo finally get over that hump and get to the AFC Championship game by beating the team that has really been a thorn in their side over the last 4 seasons? That's going to be the questions that will have to be answered tomorrow. But, you know what? Why not? I'm a New Yorker, not technically from Buffalo, but my mom went to school in Buffalo, and I tend to pull for the underdog. So my prediction is I'm going to go with my heart on this one. I'm going to go with Buffalo to advance to the AFC Championship game, because the way the Chiefs have been struggling on defense and the way Josh Allen and the Bills' offense has really found its footing since Joe Brady took over in the middle of the season, and the way the Bills' defense has kind of rallied also over the last 5-6 weeks under Sean McDermott, The Bills are playing very good football right now. They're peaking at the right time. This is a team that no one wants to play at this point. And they beat Kansas City a few weeks ago in Arrowhead, ironically. Kadarius Toney may have been offsides, but Bills fans will disagree, or Chiefs fans will, depending on who you ask. For the Buffalo Bills, this is a game that can change their fortunes so much. It would be a victory that will put them back in the AFC Championship game. It'll be a victory for Josh Allen in the postseason over Patrick Mahomes. And it will go a long way to escaping, in recent memory, what has been some devastating playoff losses for Buffalo. From 13 seconds to the Music City Miracle to the AFC Championship game loss in KC back in 2020, their loss last year at home against Cincinnati, and of course losing 4 Super Bowls in a row in the 90s. So this is a big win for Buffalo to get over the hump, and I think that atmosphere in Buffalo will help push them over it. So my prediction is, in a high-scoring affair, Buffalo 30, Chiefs 27. So that's my predictions for Sunday's slate for the divisional round. Please continue to subscribe to my channel. And for the teams left competing tomorrow, may the odds be ever in your favor.